And hello everyone. Today we are going to do the overview and the basic setup for the multi-service control system from Comfast AC-300. And first at all we will do unboxing to see what is inside. Then we are going to do installation, how to connect device to this control system, and then we will do some basic setup, what is you have to do, and then we will connect to access point to check the network, how it's going and what is capability of this system. So basically we have device, we have user manual, we have for mounting on rack mount, so the accessories for power cord for EU and US and Asia standard. Okay, now let's look the front and the rear side of device. On the front side we have a console connection where we can connect our PC directly to the device and connect to the setup mode with SSH or Telnet. Then we have USB connections where we can connect external USB or external mouse or some other USB devices. Then we have a two LED status lamp. The first one is for the power, is it device power on or not. The second one is the status, so if there is some issue this lamp would be red. WAN connection to connect to the WAN network, it's a gigabit port, and 5 LAN Ethernet gigabit ports for LAN connections to the LAN networks. On the rear side we have a VGA interface for the monitor. We have two DC fan for the cooling, earth connection for earthing, and the power switch where we can device power on. And hello everyone. So now we turn on the device and first do what the first thing what we will do is to check do we see it. So now our laptop is directly connected to the LAN 1 gigabit port on our Core Gateway device, and by default the local address is, so we will test it, ping 172.1.6.0.1, and we can see that we see the default IP address of device. Now we will go to the Google Chrome or other web browser and enter this device in URL, and you can see it now. There is login page, and here on the right side we have a little wheel where where we can check the English or Chinese. So we chose English, and default username and password is admin. Okay, so now we can see here the default dashboard of device, status list, system information about our device, utilization, network status, interface status, traffic statistics in live, see it. So here is the main dashboard with some basic information. Okay, now the next phase we will go through some basic setup, and the first step is to go to the system tool and we will go to system upgrade. Here we have an option to upgrade the firmware version of system. It is always recommended to update to the last firmware version. Then we have manual configuration, And after every setup we are going to do, we will back up the file. In the case that after the new configuration we, let's say, screw up something, we always can go back to the previous version. Here is where we update, so do, let's say, recovery. And here this option is to restore the factory settings, so we back to the factory settings. Reboot. These options we have, let's say, in this option we have two options, sub options, let's say. The first one is time restart switch, so we can schedule the restart of device. It is useful but not too often. And also we have the manual reboot now, so if something is wrong we can do reboot and check, maybe that would be the solution. Password settings. Here we can change the password. It is highly recommended to do it on the beginning, so not to leave as default. Time settings. We can manual do synchronization, we can change the time zone, and of course if we have NTP server we can connect to private or the public one. The last option in system tools is the ping, where we can put the IP address or the domain name and ping, so we can test does our gateway see some other device. So we checked the state and system tools. Now we will check the network. And here is, I'm not going to explain everything, just basic now what we need to have our first uh, installation done. So the first is interface designate. Here you can see the one is always up, we cannot edit, but for this 5 we can edit. So for example I don't need this 3, so I will use only Ethernet 1 to connect my laptop, and Ethernet 2 to connect access point. I will do save, and now Ethernet 5 is by default, so you cannot change it. Turn on. So 1, 2 and 5. So by default device, on device you must have one and one Ethernet port on. If you go to one settings, here we can see the line number, we can see is it DHCP or static, hostname we can add, it's optional, and IP address because it's DHCP, and I connected my device to home router, so I get this address. This would be the exit to internet, so by one port we will get to the internet connection. When we go to the LAN settings, because the LAN 1 is only turned on now, it's connected, we can see it, it's this static IP address from we are connect, so we can change it, and you see allow other LAN to access, so we can open or close. DHCP, here our device can be the server, so we can make like server. Here we have static list and client list of these services. Once module is skip the VLAN. On the VLAN we can create it like on the L3 switch, so we can connect several LAN, and it's very useful to have it if we have the, let's say, administration network and maybe the guest network or several few networks. So it's very important to set up this. We will create only one VLAN. DNS settings, so for now is switch, we can use it. Static route, directed and time we will skip for now. In the access control, when we connect the access point, and we will create a group. So we will create the SSID, the password, etc. And we will put access point to that group and then test does it work. So for now, that is brief overview of the capability. We will leave it by default, and the next phase is to connect the access control and create we will go by these steps, and then we will create in the network settings which we need for that. And now we will see the basic configuration with one access point. So here we have one access point, this model, which from the one exit, so the 1 gigabyte interface, is connected to the local switch, the PoE switch, so the power is provided by PoE, and that switch is connected to our gateway on the interface LAN 1. On the LAN 2, we leave the default IP address and connect our laptop directly, so we can do configuration. And from the 1 exit from the gateway, we connect it to our router of the network. So that would be the exit to the network. So firstly, we will do the network part to see what we need to configure on this basic configuration. After that, we will see the how to configure SSID, other wireless parameters, and how to add the access point to some group, and what kind of options we have there. When we finish this basic configuration, on the last part of this video, we will do test from the sun of a tablet device. So let's go. We will first go to the network. On the WAN settings, we will leave here as the DHCP client. So depending on what kind of network you are implementing in your system, you will choose the connection type. But let's say for the basic home network, we will leave the DHCP client. So our router, our gateway from our network at our home, will provide the IP address to this system, and that would be the exit from all kind of communication to the network. So we will leave it here. On the LAN settings, so we had LAN 1 and LAN 2. LAN 2, in the case that you don't see these two, you go to interface design it, and here you create from the free you see the free physical interface, you create the local interface group. So I create LAN 2 for Ethernet 2, it will be for my PC, and LAN 1 will be for access point. So let's back to the LAN settings. So LAN 1, I decided this to be, so you can give whatever IP address, whatever subnet mask, depends on your number of access point and other options. But just to remember, this IP address will be the gateway IP address on your access point. In the case that you configure static IP address on access point. In the case, which will be here, that our gateway will be the DHCP server, this gateway will provide IP address to access point. So, however, remember that this is the gateway to the access point. So all communication from access points will go to the gateway and then go either to other access point, either to the network. So it depends, of course, on is it a local communication between devices on the network or it is remote. However, that is the way of logical communication. So I decided this to be for this test, and on the LAN 2 I will leave it default so I can access through my laptop. You can change however you like. On DHCP settings, I go to these servers, I say this is okay, server or disabled for the LAN 1. For the LAN 2 I can disable because I don't need it, or I can leave it like server. However, I suggest to disable. But for the LAN one we want, so we say okay, the IP address will start from 100, maximum clients 500 by default, but you can however you like, release time 2 minutes, domain name whatever you like, and this is by default empty. I put Google DNS, but you can, if you have your DNS server, you can put some other public or your private DNS server. On the static list you can add some devices on the which has the static IP address, and here we can see our connected device. So client IP, the client MAC, the name if it has it, and we can delete it or put on the static list. So basically that is that for this very simple network configuration. The most important is to, in this case, to make DHCP server and to make LAN connections to use that servers. Okay, so now we go to AC control. In the group we can define, add some new group or leave it default. I add this for the test, but we will work with default group for the basic, and we go now to set up 2.4 GHz. Almost the same is for 5.8, so I will only leave it now for this one. Okay, is it on or off? Is it in air or not? Would we to hide SSID or not? So for the client we will leave it off, this and this on. We will name it like test, but you can guess whatever. You can use only this kind of encryption, VPA2, and you put your key here. Sorry. If you have configured VLAN, for example, separate VLAN for the, I don't know, for example, for the guest SSID, and VLAN for the administrator SSID, employee SSID, whatever. Here we can add more, if you like, more SSIDs, so for the same access point or group of access points. Admin network by default is wireless is off, it's hidden, but of course you can change it to be public. Advanced settings, you choose where you are. Usually you leave it this by default, but of course it depends on the architecture of the network and the plan. Also maximum Wi-Fi connections. So as I mentioned, this is the same for this. In advanced settings you have some more detail for the roaming and etc. settings, but of course that is, let's say, for some advice, and in the case that we have some bigger network we can talk about this. Regarding members, so here we see our device, it's in default group. If you go to management, we can change to some other group, for example to this group, but of course we can leave it in default group. So here we have a group, we have the member, so we can see where it is. For the batch upgrade is if we want, for example, for the group of access point to upgrade the firmware. We will not do it now, so update the firmware. And here we have the details about type of device, how many client is connected, what software version is, and etc. So basically that would be very easy step. On the access point you don't need to do anything, only what you need to do is to connect your access point from the one to the from the one to the switch. On the one connection you choose the DHCP is by default, so you don't need to change anything, is plug and play. Just connect your access point on one interface to your switch and everything will work with this configuration. In the case you want static, then you need to log into your access point, and in some other videos I will show you how to use the access point without controller. So in that case you need to uh, you can use it without any configuration, just plug and play still, but we will see some um, configuration there. So that will be the most simple way to configure this system. It's very easy, it's plug and play, it's logical. You only need to connect right device on the right place and everything will work fine. So let's test it. We will have some Android tablet, average one, so it not some advanced like iPhone, newest iPhone or etc. So we will test it and see how it is work on the device, how to connect it, and that would be this and that would be that for this video. Okay, so now we will test it on our Android device. Find the test. Okay, test, test. Just okay. So it's now obtaining. So it's connected. You can see the signal straight is excellent, and so the DHCP is working. We see the gateway, which others this is others which we are already configured. DNS also, transmit link speed. So that will be that. So everything is working. Thank you very much for watching this video, and hear you soon.